Well, hello there. This is episode 2 of Mystery in the Ozarks. I'm writing this book and reading it to you as we go along here on YouTube. I've changed one thing from the past episode. Will is actually Jake's cousin and will be going along for the ride and is meeting them at the campgrounds. So, anyways, just wanted to add that. Enjoy! Chapter 3. We made it. The summer heat blazed on the windshield as they twisted and turned up the old highway towards the campgrounds. With his parents singing and the 90s country blaring in his ears, Jake was ecstatic to see the turn off the main road finally coming up. Yes, we're here, Jake said over the music and singing as he pointed to the sign that said Mulberry Mountain Campground off the right of the road. Mike turned down the music and said, "You see, I knew you'd still have fun, even without your truck." And he turned off the highway into the campgrounds. The location was magnificent. Up in the hills of the Ozark, the Mulberry River runs wild and free. The campground was on the side of the river and was an amazing place to get back to nature and enjoy. The large green pine trees that canopied the sides of the roads, the beautiful fields of green grass that ran into the few ponds around the property. It's easy to see what Dad loved about this place, Angie added. Oh yeah, Granddad's journal! Jake's thoughts exploded as he had made himself stop thinking about it on the trip. He was stuck between his mom and dad and had no way to read more. I can't wait to get out of the car. Hopefully Will's family is already there. I need to tell someone about this. Hello! A loud, boisterous voice cut into his thoughts. He looked towards the sound and could see his Aunt Peggy out the driver's side window, waving at them from the parking lot. "Hello, Peggy," Angie offered out her window as they pulled into the parking space. The Chevy came to a stop and they all piled out onto the hot gravel parking lot. Angie and Mike made their way around the back of the truck to unload. Okay, we just gotta get the bags unloaded and out of here before anyone stops us, Jake thought as he stretched out his legs. His 6-foot, 230-pound frame was a bit stuffed in the front seat. He reached in and grabbed his blue Dallas Cowboys ball cap off the dash to cover his short, messy, light brown hair. "Oh, hey, y'all," Aunt Peggy hollered as she hustled over. Peggy was about 5 foot tall, 5'4", and what some might refer to as portly. She has short brown hair cut into a bob around her face, and you could see some of the streaks of gray coming in there as well. "Glad y'all made it. Carol, your cousin's here," she hollered off in the direction of the cabins. "Oh, man," Jake muttered under his breath. Jake muttered. "Hush and enjoy time with your cousin," his mother muttered back. "Hi, Carol," Jake said loudly as he cleared his throat. Carol was almost a carbon copy of her mother, except 16 years old and not nearly as rotund. She loved to run cross-country and was always one of the brightest in her class. It didn't matter what the subject was, Carol always had the right answer. She usually knew too much about it and would explain things to Jake so much in detail his head would explode with the information. She came bounding in from behind Aunt Peggy wearing a bright yellow t-shirt under some whitewashed overalls. She had on her favorite hat, a bucket hat she had made out of rainbow fabric from Walmart. Her long curly blonde hair fell away from it, frizzy with humidity. "Hey, Aunt Angie and Uncle Mike. Jake, hi!" Before he knew it, he was wrapped in a huge bear hug. "Oh, hey, Carol," he replied as he pulled away from the hug. "Good to see you too." "My turn!" Aunt Peggy hollered out as she grabbed him as well and smashed him with her own bear hug. Okay, y'all, jeez," Jake said as he pulled away from his aunt. "I just saw you last week at Main Street." Aunt Peggy and his cousin Carol lived in Paris, Arkansas, about 30 minutes down the road from where Jake's family farm is. Ever since Aunt Peggy's husband died unexpectedly, the two families try to meet up at a different favorite local restaurant once a month or so. Last week had been Jake's favorite, a barbecue place in his hometown of Charleston. "I know, but I still missed you," Aunt Peggy said with a loving laugh and smile. Peggy was Angie's sister by marriage, but her late husband Dale was Angie's younger brother. Dale had been fatally shot in a hunting accident a couple years prior. Even with all the pain and heartache she had been through, Aunt Peggy was always that person who could make you feel loved from across the room. She always did her best to wear a comforting smile on her face. "Hi, Peggy, it's good to see you too," Angie said as she hugged her sister-in-law. "Good to see you, Peg," Mike said from the other side of the truck bed as he waved. Hey, you two, Peggy replied. Jake, help me with the bags, Mike said as he gestured towards the tailgate of the truck. We'll let you get it unloaded. Hey, Angie, come with me. We already have some margaritas ready. Carol, don't be in the way. You come with us too, Peggy said as she pulled Angie down the path towards the cabins. Carol quickly followed behind them. Okay, Mike, are you all good? Angie said back towards her husband while she was being drug away. Yeah, we're all good, honey. Have fun. We'll meet you in the room, Mike replied. All right, Jake, let's get the bags unloaded. Jake opened the tailgate of the truck and hopped into the back to grab out the bags. They had each brought one with them. It was his mother's rule. We can only bring one bag on a trip. Everything you need can fit in it. Figure it out. He could hear his mother's Angie's words as he handed the bags to his dad at the end of the truck. All right, you get to be the one to carry too, said Mike. The joys of children. And he walked off with his bag in the direction of their cabin. Ha, Dad, Jake said with sarcasm as he grabbed his bag and his mother's and headed off down the path to catch up with his father. Chapter 4, The Cabin. Hey, Dad, do you know where the light switch is? Jake said as they entered the old wooden cabin. It was a tradition that they stayed in these particular ones. There were a set of 4 cabins all side by side in a small pod-like area off in the back of the campground. Each one was basically identical and fairly simple looking. They were about a 750 square foot made from what looked like pine logs that were now all gray with weather and age. Each one had a wooden porch that faced inward into a sort of courtyard area in the middle of all of them. You could sit on the porch and easily holler to someone sitting on one of the other porches. Inside, they were identical as well. Along the back wall was just one small bedroom with the queen bed in it and a small bathroom off to the side. The rest of the room was made up with the kitchen, living room, and couch where Jake slept. There was also an old coffee table in the center of the room. Mike flipped on the old switch on the wall and he took his bag into the back bedroom. Jake could hear the lights buzz on. He stood in the room for a second and took a deep breath. The smell of fresh pines mixed with the age of the building brought back a rush of old memories. He could see he and his cousins running through the middle soaking wet after falling into the river. Somehow, no matter when they went to the river, every single one of them would accidentally get soaking wet. He smiled at this memory and stood there dazed by nostalgia for a few seconds. Hey dude, we made it! I have something cool to show you! Will's voice cut into the silence from the doorway of their cabin. His giant of a cousin was wearing a pair of Charleston High School gym shorts and a black cut-off shirt that said Go Tigers across the front in big white letters. He also wore a black and red ball cap that said Razorbacks across the front. Yes! Hey buddy! Jake said with excitement as he heard his best friend's voice. Hey there, family! A large, booming voice came bellowing in from behind Will. Where is my little sister? It said even louder. Jake's uncle, Jim, Will's father and Angie's older brother, came walking into the cabin. He was about 6'3" with short buzz-cut gray hair and was the definition of a broad-shouldered man. You could see his 45 years of age in his face, but the rest of him looked like a young person. He was in incredible shape. He loved to work out and was always hounding Jake to hit the gym with him and Will. I'm over here, Angie's voice came from outside. She was sitting on the porch to the left of their cabin having a drink with having a drink with Peggy. Oh, well, I guess y'all will do too, Jim said as he smiled and gave Jake a quick hug. Hey there, Jim, it's good to see you, Mike said as he exited the bedroom. Well, howdy, Mike. How's everything been? Oh, pretty good. You want to go grab a marg with me? They seem to be having all the fun over there, Mike said as he shook Jim's hand at the door. Hey, don't forget me, a voice just outside the cabin door came, followed by Angie and Peggy excitedly yelling and laughing. Well, looks like Sally made it to the margs already as well, said Jim with a smile. Sally, Will's mother and Jake's aunt, was a small, mousy-sized lady. She had long blonde hair and was around 5'1"ish from what Jake could tell. How she and Jim got together as a couple was a question everyone asked when they met him. Hey, Will, you and Jake good with chilling here while the adults chat and have some drinks? Jim asked. He's good, Jake blurted out, exploding with excitement to tell his best friend about the note their grandfather had left him. Yeah, I'm good, Will added, with a look of curiosity towards Jake. Okay, boys, we'll be next door if you need anything, cool? Mike said as he was following Jim out the door towards the margaritas. I have to tell you something really cool, but first, what was that about? Will asked Jake as soon as their dads were out of earshot. You aren't going to believe me, but dude, look at this, Jake said as he sat down on the couch and pulled the old journal out of his pocket. I found this in the old truck Grandpa left me, and it has a note in it from him to me. He opened the journal cover so Will could see the handwritten note. Will's eyes began to bulge with excitement like he was about to pop. Are you serious? Will asked excitedly. Yeah, and man, he said some crazy things, and I don't know what to do, Jake began. You mean like the fact that the Ozark treasure is real and it's here somewhere? Will said excitedly, cutting into Jake's sentence. Jake looked up at his cousin with shock in his eyes. Yeah, I mean exactly that. How did you know? Because I got the same note. Only mine was on this letter I got with this old compass in the mail last week, Will said as he pulled an old metal compass out of his pocket and a small folded up piece of paper. Wait, what? Jake said in shock. He stood up and grabbed the letter out of Will's hand and read it. Yeah, it's almost identical. Even down to the don't tell your mom part, Jake said in shock as he read over the words. Only difference is he left me a book, not a compass. This is crazy. Why did he leave us this stuff? Do you think it's possible, Jake? That there's treasure out there? Will pointed excitedly towards the front door of the cabin. I don't know what to think right now. That's insane, though. A treasure? Whose treasure? What is he even talking about? Jake rambled on, a bit in shock. Oh, well, that's easy. I know who the treasure belonged to. Carol's voice came from the cabin door. Oh, no. You too? Jake said as he looked towards Carol. Yep. I overheard your conversation about the letters from Grandpa. I got one too. Only mine came with this. She held up a small piece of paper that had an alphabet spelled out across it, and below it were letters with different symbols. But below each letter was a different symbol. I think it's a cipher, Carol said excitedly as she made her way into the room with the paper. She set it on the coffee table next to the book. I looked it up online, and from the images I compared it to, that's what it looks like. A cipher? What is that? Will asked. A cipher is like a key to a coded message, Carol replied. And when I looked up ciphers, I saw that there was a very famous outlaw who liked to use ciphers to hide all of his loot. It is rumored he buried several boxes of gold coins and bars he stole when he robbed a train that was headed for Fort Knox. He and his gang of six men boarded the train down in Fayetteville and then ran off with the gold. However, during the escape, the sheriff and his posse showed up and began shooting. 2 of the men were shot, and the others, just trying to escape, headed up into the mountains instead of down towards Fort Smith, where they had planned to meet up with some wagons and head to Texas. The mountains are too steep, and the weight of the gold on their horses was too much. The horses died of exhaustion. It's assumed that stranded on this mountain, the men began to fight amongst themselves on what to do with the gold. But that's where the story ends. No one knows what happened after that. Jake and Will were sitting jaws agape as she finished her story. Wow, so, wait, whose treasure was it then? You never said their name, Jake added after a few moments of processing everything Carol had just said. She smiled and said, Oh, sorry about that. Have you ever heard of the outlaw Jesse James?